hand on here. How about what has been your happiest moment with programming? It's not directed at anyone.
I think my happiest moment in programming was I wrote this incredibly complex piece of code to do something, and it literally worked the very first time I compiled it. And I just kind of remember being shocked at that. And it's like, okay, I'm done for the day, right? I'm out of here because this worked the very first time.
What was the code? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly what the code was, but it involved like a whole bunch of like math and like getting all these. I think it was the animation system. Oh, that's right. It was the animation system. It was getting all of the the pieces of the animation, which were all running on these kind of threaded animation chains, and it's like I worked on this thing for probably the entire afternoon. I remember hitting compile and hitting run, and the guy walked across the screen. That was a very happy moment.
Well, I blogged about one of them, which was like getting the first multiplayer game of Warcraft 1 working. So I'll mention a different one instead. And that was actually doing the Fog of War for StarCraft.
Okay.
Another programmer had gone and done Fog of War, and it was cell-based. And so as a unit would move around the screen, you'd see this map of cells around it, which are 8x8 tiles. And they'd all sort of shiver around as the unit like moved pixel by pixel, and it's trying to recalculate what the light map would look like. And it wasn't very scalable for the number of units we wanted to have, and so it needed to be rewritten. And so I just sort of stepped back and said, what could I do differently? And so I did Garot shading with a filter algorithm to sort of soften all the edges, and then I actually added line of sight as well. So if you had something that was blocking your view, then the fog of war would be filled in. So if you're at the bottom of a cliff, you can't see up here, and so this area would still be fogged. And it ended up being about the last assembly code I ever really wrote in my career. I mean, maybe a couple of instructions after that, but like that was the last serious block of assembly code because C got to be better. And it took a while to get it nailed down, but it worked and it's beautiful. And line of sight works, and it really makes the game work well.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun to do.
So how long did that take?
I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. I'd already done a lot of Fog of War stuff, so I know the problem space really well.
After the 2 previous Warcrafts, like 1 and 2, I guess would have been. Tommy.
So right at the end of Meat Boy, I was losing my mind because yes, you do. And throughout development, we always had problems with the replay system. It was like, there would be like a block that broke, and it was all input based in the beginning. And it worked well, but it always had these times where it would just totally mess up. And it was 2 days, either a day or 2 days before our Xbox Gold submission. And I'm like, I have to fix this. And what I did is I was on like 4 hours of sleep, and I get up out of my desk and I go and I sit with my back against the wall because it sucks sitting on the floor with nothing, and I didn't have a couch and I didn't want to sit in the computer chair. So I sit on the floor, back against the wall, and I just closed my eyes for like 30 minutes. And I just thought about how I was going to recode the entire replay system. And after 30 minutes, I was like, okay. And I did it, and first time. And that's the one that shipped. So, yeah. Yeah. That was some weird superhuman, lifting the car off the baby. That's what that was. Yeah, I don't think I could ever do that again. So
Meditative coding?
Yeah, pretty much.
John?
I'm thinking of 2, and it's about a tie between them.
You've got at least 4 minutes. You could do both.
So they're both kind of recent. One of them is probably from about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's from a side project game that I was working on during The Witness. And you know this game, but most people do not. So I won't go into that much detail about what it is, but it was still in the relatively early stages where you're not trying that hard on the graphics or whatever, so it's very easy to create results. And I had a period of just like 3 to 5 weeks when I was working on The Witness during the day. I'd go to a cafe or go home after work, and I was just then working on this all the way until it was time to go to sleep. I'd eat whatever was fast. I'd fall asleep. I'd wake up. I'd go right back to working on the side project, and I'd go do The Witness during the day. And something about, there's just this juxtap, like you're trying to ship this big game and it's like, oh man, there's so much to do. And you go and you can make something happen very quickly, and it was coming out really great, right? There's this joy of like when you're a programmer designer and you have ideas and can make the ideas happen and they really work, it's just really nice. And so there was just this time of like, where I was just completely content to do nothing else in life, but like wake up and first thing in the morning I was doing this, right? And then I'd go do witness stuff. So I can't even explain why that was. It's just was. You have to take my word for it. It was really nice. And then the second one is more recent. Even is on the compiler that I was working on. And maybe toward the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, when that first started coming online, even in the first few months of development of that, it's again, compilers are another area where it's easy to make a great deal of progress relatively quickly before you start getting bogged down later with implementation details. And I have enough programming experience. There's a way that you can capitalize on that effect, right? And structure your code to not bog you down for a while, right? And that's one thing that I feel like is my personal style, is about thinking about that. Like I got the compile time compilation working, and I did this demo where you can run the same program at compile time and release time or whatever. And I was just super happy with that, and it was not that complicated of a system. And I knew like if I already can do this and it's not very complicated, then the rest of it is going to be tractable, right? And I was a case then when I just kept jamming on it and new results came in and worked well and progress was fast. So because of that, because of all of my experiences of when programming is the best is when progress doesn't take forever, when it's not like pulling teeth to get anything done, right? But that's so much of like what current day programming is, even down to compile times or whatever, right? So that's the other aspect of that psychology was like looking at all that, looking at the misery of like programming in C++ every day and being like, oh my God, I really do have a way out of this. It was like, I see a light up there and I'm actually managing to get towards it, right? And it like, there was this release of all this dread that I'd had, like, because otherwise I had already convinced myself that I was just gonna have to put up with that for the rest of my life. And get done what I was doing despite that.
Right.
It's like, oh, games are hard enough, but I've also got to do them while holding this like 50-pound weight on my
50 pounds
shoulder.
C++.
Yeah.
And it was
like,
spec if you print it
yeah.
out.
I was like, oh my God, I don't have to do that. So we'll see if that part actually comes true and I finish the thing. But like the feeling of that was amazing. The hope is amazing when you can have it, right?
Correct.
That's like one of those books you can buy in the checkout aisle, I think, right? Hope is amazing if you can have it, by Jonathan Lowe.
2016, that's
Daily
the bumper sticker.
Programming Affirmations.